YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-ohger episode 25, the beginning of what feels like another finale arc, especially since we now know we're getting this upcoming time jump refresh, which I did a video on yesterday, which is really exciting, but at the same time I feel like we're just delving into the Bugnarok, and a lot of the stuff they've introduced I feel would give us at least a half dozen episodes more worth of exploration for this story before we moved on. But we don't know how the dynamics about the Bugnarok and even Rackley's will play into the rest of the series, as I'm sure, even though this conflict is, I guess, ending for this new arc, I'm sure elements of this story will be seeded throughout the rest of the series. Regardless, though, I'm pretty surprised by it, and it's kind of funny how many episodes in this series feel like a season finale or a series finale to a degree, and all these kind of bookends. Especially this one, is like a lot of things are culminating in regards to all the characters we've met and whatnot over the course of the series. As basically, in order to stop Deathnarok after he's screwing stuff up in Earth's core, is to create a new combo. As you know, we've done all the King-ohger combos so far, and they need to create a new one combining the big god combo with the castle mecha, and to create the God King-ohger. And in order to do that, they need 20 pilots for all these, and like they can't just pilot it by themselves, and they need other people. Thankfully, it's really funny because they're like, oh man, we don't even know if we can find all the pilots, and then it's like, oh, thank goodness, it's all the people we know that are pilots. Like, it's so convenient. I might have missed a line of dialogue. I also find it weird that, like, you know, I know this is the biggest combo, but technically they're only adding on, like, one more guy. I mean, I know it's a big guy, but in the past, they've been able to pilot these no problem, and they didn't need anybody to pilot the little mini mecha. So I'm sure there was a throwaway line like, oh, we haven't been using, because they said to use it to its full potential we need all the pilots, so I'm guessing that's the answer, but it still just seems weird and convenient. It's ultimately fine though, because it's for kind of more of an emotional story beat, but I also just did find it funny, and also funny how much of a technicality it is like, this big billion mecha in this form. Like, dude, one of them's like this little ant, like the locked and dropped things in Ninja Storm were bigger. Like, it's such a technicality. Like, they're making it seem like it's this big accomplishment, and again, it's such a technicality. Regardless though, the idea is they need to build the mecha formation, but in order to do it, they need to recruit everyone. So the beginning of the episode is going to each kingdom, and effectively we go over all the characters we've met that are important to each kingdom story, and highlighting that, oh, they just happen to be chosen. I kind of wish there was a few randos in there, and it was kind of funny that I'm like, oh my god, the little orphan kid's going to be one of the chosen ones. I'm like, yep, that's what happened. But it led to some nice scenes. You know, it kind of, again, felt very finale-esque, and it made me appreciate the fact that over the course of the series so far, we've taken the time to sort of get to know these characters and the kingdoms, which made it feel more like a great culmination of all the stories when we finally got to it, because I remembered way back to the episodes when we were introduced to all these characters and the kingdoms and how they operate and how the dynamics operate, and, you know, the different perspectives of them, and that was kind of cool to see all come together there at the end. And then of course, obviously, you have Jeremy as well, having major focus again. Thank God, I'm so glad he's getting more to do, where he's fighting off against one of the Bugnarok, who he winds up recruiting as he declares his intentions to become the king of the Bugnarok and be the bridge between the people and be the sixth kingdom yet again, but with the Bugnarok and the people uniting being his main goal, which was really great, a really great scene, and awesome, like, morph sequence and like this weird like freeze frame thing where they put like the cell shaded art over him, which looked really cool. But as I've mentioned previously, I was worried about him being shoved into the background as we focused on the Rackley's arc, and following that same pattern that Six Rangers would fall into nowadays of kind of getting shoved into the background and becoming a bit, and thank God he's gotten so much more focus and depth and importance to the overall story, obviously for this story in particular, and I hope his prominence continues when we head into this time jump and to see how his kingdom is established. So that was some really good stuff going on there. And then obviously we do finally assemble the big god combo. It's really funny because like the whole idea was like we need one left, and it was the orphan kid, and he's the ant, and it's just funny how pathetic it is to just on the back, like it's again another technicality, like look, it's 20 because we have this on the back, but then he wound up being important because he had this moment where he like aims or whatever. He's like flying around and he's like, well, he's really good at targeting, so he targets for them, so they kind of gave him a moment of importance. But it was admittedly kind of cool to see all these people piloting the mecha, and again, it felt like a culmination of the series we've watched so far as we see all these faces of these characters we've met and gotten to know over the course of the series. And it was also funny, I forgot to note like how the different ways they were recruited, especially with Moffin, like Rita talked to their assistant girl through Moffin and like scared her, and so there was like funny moments like that within it. I almost forgot to mention that, so I had to bring it up. So it was admittedly cool. Again, it felt like a great combination of this larger ensemble and also like how the kingdoms have come together, not just the 5-6 kings, but like the people that are involved in them in general. And I really do like the design of all of the big combo mecha. I think The one right before this with just Spider is my favorite because I think I like the helmet the most. But in general, I do like this. I've talked about this before, how my thoughts on it are kind of split between the live action and the toy. Because the toy-wise, I do like that it builds on itself. Like, it's not like a combo where you all of a sudden do a completely different formation. You're using the same general formation and just building on it, which I think is cool. But the toy is very unstable and kind of can be fugly and hard to deal with. But in terms of just the design, when you see it in the show, I actually really like it. A lot of people think it's really messy, and it is a little bit messy, but I think it's a lot more well thought out than other ones. Like, you just kind of have this idea of all these bug legs and pieces fanning out, and it feels like an organized mess or organized chaos. Like, I don't know, I just really dig it. I think it looks cool, and I think compared to some that feel like, it doesn't matter, whatever, let's just make sure these all click in. But this feels like, yeah, you're going to have that to a degree because there's so many, but at the same time it feels more purposeful. But it leads to a pretty awesome final fight with really awesome cinematic shots, both from the mecha fight and the series in general. I have to mention before, King-ohger is one of the most cinematic Sentai series I've ever watched. And then we end off on the cliffhanger with Bugnarok on the ground and the Six Kings getting ready to confront him and put an end to this conflict. So overall, a really strong episode, part one of what's going to feel like a two-part finale. 4 out of 5 strong episode, as per usual. As I mentioned, I really like that Jeremy's getting focused in the forefront. Thought this was a great culmination of the overall story so far and the cast of characters we've met. And I'm really interested to see how this ends off. Like I said, the stuff with the Bugnarok feels like it's a little bit unexplored. I can't imagine them resolving it all in 22 minutes next week. So I'm hoping that the dynamics that are presented, especially since the Bugnarok will still be around as presumably a part of Jeremy's kingdom, I hope that's still fleshed out through the series and we don't just stop this story, which I don't think we will, but I just wanted to talk about that because, you know, the stuff with the Bugnarok, in particular about the idea of them being done dirty by history, is interesting. I think there's a lot interesting to find out there, a lot of interesting characters that come out of that, and then of course there's the stuff with Jeremy's parents, like while we know the backstory, I think there's just a lot more to explore, and so even after we end this Bugnarok conflict, I hope we continue to explore that. But again, I think it's probably a silly concern considering they will be part of Jeremy's kingdom, presumably. But what did you think of this week's episode? What did you think of the upcoming time jump? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Awesome Writer, signing out.